When it comes to unlocking life's second half, it obviously makes sense to start with a solid foundation. But what does that look like? Where do we begin? We're going to start, my fellow travelers, with the foundational 4. These are 4 key aspects of life, none of which were ever intended to be the goal in life, but all of them affect our ability to hear and respond to that call to adventure we discussed previously. Cracks that occur in one or more of these foundations can significantly limit us going forward. Today, we're going to discuss each of these 4 and the role they play in life's second half journey. Welcome back to the Not Done Yet podcast. I'm Dr. Brad Cooper of Catalyst Coaching, and as I turned 60 this year, and after countless conversations with so many other people navigating the same phase of life, I've become increasingly convinced that one of the world's greatest untapped resources is the possibility sitting just beneath the surface in those of us who are moving through life's second half. Yet, the cultural script we're handed doesn't exactly encourage us to tap into it, does it? We're told to slow down, take it easy, relax, and then almost in the same breath, we're encouraged to stay busy, filling our days not with purpose, but with padding. Activities that they might get us out of bed in the morning, but they certainly don't fill our hearts. Most people take the bait, but not you. You're one of those rare individuals who senses there's more available than the status quo suggests. You feel the possibilities waiting just beyond the familiar, and you're ready to explore what that might look like. My hope is that our time together in these episodes provides encouragement, perspective, and maybe a little extra fuel for that journey. So with that said, let's jump into this concept of foundational 4 and the role each of them play in life's second half. About, 20, 25 years ago, I was driving up the canyon to a half marathon with a buddy of mine, and he said, "Coop, why do you think it is we always have to choose between time, money, and health?" I didn't know what he was talking about, so I kind of looked at him strangely, and he continued. He said, "We always have to trade one for the other. We give up time and health to make more money, and then we use that money to buy free time or to pay for health care, and it's just this rinse and repeat over and over." I have never forgotten that conversation. I've since added purpose to his original trio, but the idea remains. Life can often feel like a game of whack-a-mole. Constant trade-offs among time, money, health, and purpose. My friend was right. Most of the time, we're forced to choose 2, maybe 3 out of the 4. As we journey through this life, these are the primary foundations allowing us to move forward, or that limit our potential. It's very rare for someone to master that delicate balance involving all 4, holding all 4, but loosely. We can choose money and purpose and work endless hours, treating time and health as our currency. Or maybe we zero in on health and free time, but barely scrape by financially. Or perhaps we land on purpose and the extreme fitness version of health, but then exchange time and earnings along the way. Pick 2, any 2. Life is about trade-offs. That's just the way it works, right? Well, not necessarily. Yeah, of course. Life obviously does involve trade-offs. If you're attending night school, raising a young child, starting a company, training for some big event like an Ironman, or any number of exciting, all-encompassing pursuits, there are clearly necessary sacrifices within these foundational 4 that are inherent in the process. But the key, please hear me on this, the key is to avoid triggering the landmines through our blind focus on or complete neglect of a singular area. Of course, there will always be ebbs and flows. The idea of balance, that's a false narrative created by influencers that has almost no real application in life. However, there's a notable difference between ebbing and depleting. One involves the natural shift in priorities through our lives. The other creates a destructive multiplier effect. Allow any one of the foundational 4 to go completely dry, and your life's long-term equation suddenly includes a 0 in the multiplier. For those who may have forgotten elementary school math, that doesn't turn out very well. A valuable first step is to reflect on our current baseline for each of these four. Now, they kind of fall into two categories here. The first three, time, money, and health, those are resources. Purpose, on the other hand, is more of a capacity. Now, you're probably familiar with the phrase, no margin, no mission. If not, let me give you the short version. It's commonly used in business. If we don't have a profit margin, we cannot live out our mission as an organization because we're just on survival. We are just getting the expenses paid. We can't invest in our people. We can't invest in what we're doing as an organization. We can't invest in research. No margin, no mission. But that's not just a business concept. That is a personal concept too. If we don't have margin in time, money, health, purpose, we cannot live out our mission because we're simply on survival mode. So for each of the three that are resource-based in particular, we're asking, do I have an adequate amount for the mission ahead? Let's look at these. First one, time. If we don't have any margin with our time, if every day is literally sprinting through the day, there's nothing left over when the day comes to an end, then we find ourselves going into debt, time debt. We decrease sleep, exercise activities, we cut interactions with others short, we eat junk food or fast food out of apparent necessity. We don't have the time to even listen for our call to adventure, let alone answer and respond to the call. So no margin with time, no ability to tap into that mission. Same is true for money. The debt concept is easy to picture here. It's generally referring to money. And when we're living paycheck to paycheck, there's nothing left for investing in others or ourselves. Again, as I said earlier, our goal is not to maximize, but just like with time, creating a little margin allows the bigger mission to take hold. Health, this one's a little more complex, so we'll spend a little more time on this one. It's the difference between our current health and fitness and the level of health and fitness that our lives, our mission, what we're wanting to live for requires. If we have low health and fitness baseline, then the requirements, the things that all of us must do in the day, it uses up all of that. There's nothing left. There's no remaining margin to invest in our mission. In contrast, if we maintain higher levels of health and fitness, then there's plenty left over to step into that call to adventure after addressing the daily essentials. For those of you who may be in the younger side of this second half of life equation, please don't simply consider whether your health and fitness is adequate for today's requirement. Think bigger. Keep in mind that we generally lose 1% of our strength, conditioning, and function each year after the age of 40. And that's if we allow all things to remain constant. And that's a concept I can promise you we will come back to. In fact, I think the next episode, I'm going to dig into that one a little bit. But rather than just thinking about your current age and is my health and fitness adequate for what I'm wanting to do right now, understand that natural drop-off. It's coming. Is that going to allow you to live out your vision for your optimal 80s? So don't just think about, am I fine for now? Think about what is the life I want to live in my 80s, and knowing that 1%, it's like your money. When you look at your finances, you don't say, do I have enough saved up for what I need to buy today? You look ahead and you say, I probably won't be working in my 80s, so do I have enough to sustain me? Same thing true with our health and fitness. Is it high enough today so that knowing it's going to drop off, just like knowing our finances, we're going to be spending money over time, will it last? We're doing the same thing with our health and fitness. When I get into my optimal 80s, if I'm fortunate to do that, will my current, after the ongoing drop-off of 1% per year on average, allow me to live that life? So we're not just looking at, is it good enough for now? We're saying, will it sustain me in the future? The fourth component, purpose. This isn't a resource like the other three. It's a capacity. And I'm going to spend some time digging into that one more in the future. But for now, think of it as signal to noise ratio. If we're not sensing our purpose, if we don't feel like we have that purpose, one of two things or a combination are happening. The signal, we're not giving it a chance, or the noise is too much. So we can lower the noise, we can reduce the external distractions that are keeping us from tuning into it, or we can improve that signal through putting ourselves in enhanced settings, tuning into additional sparks, or reviewing insightful glimpses in our lives. And again, I will come back to those in more detail, but I want to just get those out there as a basic starting point for you today. Your main question here is whether you have a sense of your purpose, that guiding light that pulls you forward rather than the typical basket full of shoulds that are based on what others want us to do. When we say, I should do something, that means we don't believe it yet. We know somebody else believes it about us, and maybe we trust them, but as long as we're saying, I should do A, I should do B, we don't yet believe it. And that's not what we're talking about with purpose. Purpose is a pull, not a push. I want to throw in a little quote from Howard Thurman called The Sound of the Genuine. If you're not familiar with Howard Thurman, get familiar with Howard Thurman. He was one of Martin Luther King's closest advisors, amazing man, incredible writer, and I think you'll get a little taste of it here. He says, you may be famous. He's talking about big titles, educated, wealthy, successful, etc. But you know that you don't have the foggiest notion who you are, where you're going, what you want. Cultivate the discipline of listening to the sound of the genuine in yourself. Let me say that again. Cultivate the discipline of listening to the sound of the genuine in yourself. Whew. Wow. If you want to take a deeper dive into some of this stuff, I will include a link in the description to an article that walks you through how you can do a personal SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for each of the foundational four. However, for our purposes here, knowing this is audio, we're not sitting across the table from each other, just consider the following questions, and I'll give you a mini version of that you can do just with a scratch piece of paper relatively easily as you move forward. So 3 questions or 3 steps. Number 1, which of the 4 have you typically emphasized? So as you think about time, money, health, and purpose, and you look back on your life, which one have you emphasized in your life? Which have you pursued that money? Has it been health and fitness? You get the idea. Which of those 4 has really been your focus? Maybe you can think of the last decade or couple decades, and then consider, how has that focus affected the other 3? Has it created cracks? Has it depleted any of them? Do we need to do a major reconstruction here, or do we simply need to fill in some cracks? So that's the first question. Second one, as I covered each of the foundational 4 and the importance of margin within each setting the stage for the way that we live out our unique vision, did any potential cracks come to mind? And then the last one, this is the one that involves a piece of paper. And it's super simple, and it doesn't take a ton of time, but I think for those of you who are ready to do this, it'll give you a really good running start. It's called a stop, start, continue exercise. And you literally just take a piece of paper and you write at the top, stop. Right in the middle, you write start. And down toward the bottom, you write continue. And you take each of these foundational 4, so time, money, health, and purpose. And one at a time, you just go through and you say, okay, for time, what do I want to stop doing that will allow me more margin, will create more margin, will make up for some of the cracks I've created in that area? What do I want to start doing that I haven't previously been doing? And then what do I want to continue doing? What are some of the things I've been doing really well that are helping build this margin? So you're going to do that stop, start, continue for time, money, health, and potentially purpose, although you may want to wait on the purpose one until we come back to it. As we move into and through life's second half, it's fun for people like us to aim high, shoot for the stars, dream big. We love that stuff. And I can promise you, we will be talking about precisely that perspective and approach as we build the episodes here. You can count on it. Doing so, however, requires a firm foundation on which we can build, launch, and explore. It is so easy for us after decades of establishing our rhythms and routines to brush this off with I'm fine. And maybe that's true for you, but you would be the rare exception if that's the case. Investing a little time into assessing our foundational four, tuning into potential cracks, and triggering positive steps forward prepares us to make the most of the journey ahead. A journey that will clearly reflect we are not done yet. Thank you for joining me here on the Not Done Yet podcast. You can always reach out, results@catalystcoaching360.com with any questions or ideas or things that you'd like to see me cover in the future. I love hearing from you. And thank you for sharing this. We don't do any advertising with this podcast, so this is completely word of mouth. And as a new podcast, your sharing it makes a big difference. Until next time, make it a great rest of your week, and I'll speak with you soon on the next episode of the Not Done Yet podcast.